going to provide tax relief for families. We're going to simplify very greatly the tax code. It's too complicated. We're going to lower the rates very, very substantially for virtually everybody in every category.
Music to our ears. President Trump this week renewing his promise to cut taxes right after dealing with Obamacare, but we may need it even sooner because the U.S. just falling to a record low on the World Economic Freedom Index, dropping from 11 down to 17 behind countries like the Netherlands. Even Lithuania is higher than we are. Now, some here say we can bounce right back to the top if the president and Republicans slash taxes across the board now without adding any new taxes. Are they right or wrong? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Rich Karlgaard, Mike Ozanian, Sabrina Schaefer, John Tamny, and Bruce Jepson. So, Mike, would tax cuts put us back on top as a place to go in the world for business?
Yes, it would, David. A key component of that freedom index are tax rates. The lower a country's tax rates, the more economic freedom it has. And one of the areas that's been very, very weak during this economic recovery, if you can call it that, has been investment by businesses in new plant, new equipment. Lowering tax rates would really spur those types of investments.
Good point. Bruce, it is true that whenever Trump talks about tax cuts, the market goes up. That happened again this week.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, but he never offers any details, and what we do know is that his tax cuts would raise the deficit, but he has this 77-minute press conference yesterday when he has an opportunity to provide details of how this is going to help the blue-collar people who put him in office, and he goes off and it's all about the leaks being real and the news being fake. He needs to keep focused.
Well, but Rich, we have details. We know he's going to reduce the rates to 3 brackets from the multiple brackets we have now. He's going to make corporate taxes a lot cheaper. There are some details, right?
Yeah, there are. In fact, there's a white paper written in September that has the Trump roadmap that has some of that in great detail. So, but Bruce is right. Trump needs to focus on this and get it done. The country desperately needs a higher rate of economic growth.
And, you know, some people, John Tamny, some Republicans are actually talking about a new tax, a tax against imports. I had Kevin Brady, he's the head of the Ways and Means Committee chairman, on early this week on Fox Business Network. And I asked him about what Steve Forbes says about that. And as you know, Steve Forbes says just because the Japanese and the Europeans shaft their consumers with an import tax, that doesn't mean we should shaft our consumers. Here's what Kevin Brady responded.
So, one, love Steve Forbes. Here's what we're proposing. To match our competitors, to jettison our international tax code that's so complex, and basically ask one question. Is your product consumed in the United States? If so, it is an equal low business rate of 20%.
So that means an extra 20% that consumers would be paying for imports. We should be talking about cutting taxes, not adding new ones, right?
Yeah, Kevin Brady and the Republicans are trying to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Here, the Republican Party, that's supposed to be about tax cuts, wants to centrally plan how we buy and the origin of where we're buying. And oh, by the way, centrally plan a great deal lower amounts of efficiency and economic freedom, whereby we shun these global supply chains that make the U.S. the richest country in the world. Why not lead with basic income tax cuts? Why complicate it? It's the path to failure.
And Sabrina, just the fact that folks are talking about tax cuts now is kind of increasing the optimism in America among businesses and consumers. Donald Trump tweeted, he tweets about everything, but he tweeted about the stock market saying it hits new highs with longest winning streak in decades, great level of confidence and optimism even before the tax plan rollout.
Well, because this is true. I mean, look, David, I have a donor who every time I go into his office, the first thing he does is to point to this map on his wall of economic freedom around the world. It's the most important thing, not only because it means I would get some more money in my bank account and businesses would have more money and more resources to play with, but it means that we have more freedom to make choices over things that are important in our lives. When government sort of returns those resources, they're also returning control over health care, over the workplace and how we determine that, over the energy use, all sorts of things. And it allows businesses to invest their resources in a way that makes the most sense, whether that's into new employees or into research and development. So the freedom really, or the tax cuts really symbolize freedom, and that's what I think all of us here care about.
And Mike, you know, this administration's got a lot of grief for its views on immigrants, but I think Donald Trump understands the reason why immigrants come here, the majority of them anyway, is because we were this beacon of freedom, not just individual freedom, but economic freedom, and they're actually linked, are they not?
Absolutely. And, you know, David, people talk about corporations or businesses as though they're these monolithic entities made of steel and cement. They're human beings, they're people, they're shareholders, they're workers. High taxes basically get passed on to consumers in terms of higher prices or to workers in terms of lower wages.
And John Tamny, one of the things you're always talking about when you're talking about draining the swamp, which is Washington, D.C., government in Washington, D.C., the great thing about tax cuts is it means the government will have, I mean, yes, there may be a supply side effect, but generally speaking, you're for tax cuts because it shrinks government, right?
Yeah, anytime you can reduce the inflow of precious resources into government, that means more investment, which leads to more companies being created, and of course, as Mike points out, higher wages. This is really simple stuff here. Free people prosper. So just make it all about that and stop talking about taxing the reason we work, which is what the border tax is all about. It's taxing our work. And let's end this talk of tariffs, which is a massive tax on our work and our productivity.
Rich, I agree that the smaller government is, the more freedom individuals have. So there's a human element besides the economic element to this. But does it concern you that Donald Trump doesn't seem to be, I mean, he's talking about a bigger infrastructure plan. Maybe a lot of it will be private, but part of it invariably will lead to bigger government, won't it?
Well, the Steve Bannon wing of Trump's administration is doing none of us any favors. It's Bannon that's whispering in Trump's ear about the border adjustment tax and other things. And, you know, you can imagine Walmart is already preparing a statement. Attention, Walmart shoppers. Everything just went up 10%, you know, because of this tax. So
20%.
I agree with John on these issues.
Well, Sabrina, I call it a dog, walking a dead dog, or trying to walk a dead dog, because while some people may be whispering in Trump's ear, he said he's not crazy about the tax. He says, I don't love it. That, in Trump speak, that usually means he doesn't like it, right?
That's right, and I think this is, you know, the sort of the challenge right now. There's a policy concern and there's a political one, and there's a lot of conservatives here in Washington who are very enthusiastic, as we are here. Most of us here are about the tax piece of this economic plan. They're very wary about the sort of protectionist tariff potential trade war part of this plan. I mean, and one side doesn't really come without the other, and so we need to make sure that, you know, there's enough carrot and stick going on.
By the way, one thing, Bruce, that should be of concern to progressives or the liberal wing of the country about this import tax is it's regressive. It affects everybody. Every American is an importer. Not every American is an exporter, but every single American imports something, whether it's a car or a pen or whatever it is. So isn't that a regressive tax?
Well, yeah, it is, and it's sort of like a sales tax. We don't like sales taxes because that hurts the poor more. And I mean, that's where, you know, Donald has to get it together here. He has to take advantage of these press conference opportunities, and the Washington press corps are like lemmings. I mean, they will do whatever. He needs to take advantage of this and explain all these complicated things to people.
Well, I don't think after Thursday's performance, I don't think anybody has to doubt that Donald Trump likes press conferences. He loves it. He gets a lot of publicity from it. Coming up next.